Biddy-bop-bop-bop-boo. The following podcast contains spoilers for Paris Blues. You have been warned. I see spoilers everywhere, but I see you and you see me, 'cause my name is Glenjamin Button, along with Miguel Magusto. Hey baby, how's it going? Hey. Okay, that's enough.
Before his throat punches us back.
Yeah. How you doing?
Hey there, sexy man. How? I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I am swell.
Perfect.
We have a movie to talk about, as is the point of this podcast.
As per usual.
But before we get to that, Glenn, what movies have you seen?
I've seen a total of 2 movies this whole week, including our movie of the week. The first one I had watched was Finch. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Are you talking about that movie with Tom Hanks? Yes, that's that one. You're correct. I watched that, and I think we actually, funnily enough, had the same review before I wrote it. I actually didn't even write it out on Letterboxd because I saw you had it written out. And it's the chappy movie we wanted. Yeah. But didn't get back in the time. But now we have it, and it was pretty great. Apocalyptic film, and Tom Hanks just decides I'm gonna build a sentient robot.
Yeah.
And do they survive? Do they not? Who knows? That's for you to find out. But yeah, it was fun and magical. But other than that, all I watched was Paris Blues, which we'll have to get to in a minute. Mike, I know you watched some things.
I have lent you a Blu-ray for the past 2 weeks.
I know. I had plans to see it today, but of course, Peacock ruined things.
Buddy boy. I had another light week. I only watched 11 movies again.
It's beautiful.
I'm not even trying to watch this many movies. It's just happening.
You're a stay-at-home dad now. It just happens.
Yeah, between his naps and just when everyone goes to bed and I'm the only one up, that's what I do. The first one I watched is The Medium, which is a Thai horror film, found footage horror film from the producer or the director of The Wailing, a South Korean movie, produced it. But this takes place in Thailand, and it is essentially a possession found footage film, but instead of being like Christianity possession, it's about like shamanism possession. Yeah. So that was like a pretty interesting take. The movie overall is it's fine. It's got a really strong beginning and really strong ending. It kind of lags a bit in the middle, which is its biggest flaw. But it's still a solid film. Has one of the single creepiest images I've seen in recent horror films, where the possessed woman emerges from the shadows underneath a staircase, and at first it just looks like a floating head. Holy fucking shit, that was terrifying. I still, it gives me the
chills.
Yeah. But yeah, I would suggest checking that out, especially if you're a fan of horror. It wasn't as good as I was hoping it to be, but it's still really cool. And seeing, the shamanism aspect of it was really cool. Then I watched a movie on Netflix called The House, which is like 3 little vignettes, stop motion animation vignettes that all take place in houses, and they're all terrifying and weird. And like the first one is about this poor family who gets this mansion for free because they're told that the person who's built it for them is rich and just wants to get back. But
I wish I had their problems.
Well, no, you don't.
Joke's on you, Glenn.
Because then they get trapped in the house and like.
Oh, yikes.
Infatuated. Like the parents get infatuated, so it's just this little girl and her baby sister. It's really creepy. Then the second one is about this. It's mice. Like the characters are mice. Yeah. This home renovator is like renovating his home. And
what? That's crazy.
I know. But when he tries to sell it, these people come in and then they won't leave. They just live there, and they're really creepy, and it's weird and creepy, and it's just creepy. And then the last one is like this landlord trying to work on this house, but it keeps flooding. That one's not as scary. That's kind of more hopeful than the rest of them, but it's still like it's got a lot of really cool horror aspects. Okay. So that's The House. The movie overall is okay, but it's got some really cool things in it. So it is worth checking out. It's just, nothing that's going to blow your mind or anything.
Yeah.
Then I watched Shanghai Noon because I remembered me and my friend Colin watched Shanghai Night in theaters a few years ago, but I never watched Shanghai Noon.
A few years ago, did you?
Well, like 20 years ago, whenever it came out.
It's like, where was that at?
Whenever it came out.
Yeah, it came out in the 2000s.
Yeah, we saw Shanghai Nights, and the only reason I remember seeing it in theaters, because I don't remember the movie, but I remember that the lights were on the entire time, like the cleaning lights.
Oh, yeah.
And it was before I worked there, so I didn't know we could just turn them off. Mm-hmm. And we all, but by the time we realized they were going to stay on the whole movie, the movie had started, and we didn't want to miss it.
Yeah.
So,
I actually don't know if I watched Shanghai Noon.
You rated it.
I might have watched both. I don't remember. They kind of blur together at a certain point.
Yeah, this one was. I remember liking Shanghai Nights, but I also don't remember it. So who knows? I was also like 12 or 13 when it came out, so my tastes were vastly different. But Owen Wilson, Jackie Chan, and Jackie Chan. That's all I need.
Yeah.
It's dumb, it's bad, but I didn't hate it. Then I watched Supernova, which Stanley Tucci, Colin Firth are a couple, and one of them has dementia.
Oh, how did you like that?
I liked it a lot. It's I think
it's a great film.
Yeah, it's not melodramatic, which I was worried it would be, because whenever there's like a movie about a couple and one of them's dying, it can be melodramatic. I'm actually writing a script about a couple and one of them's dying, and I'm hoping that's not melodramatic. I'm gonna have you read it when it's done, so you can tell me if it's melodramatic or not.
I would love to.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Stanley Tucci's great. Colin Firth is great. I think it has a overall good message, and without giving anything away, I liked it. It did not go the way that I thought it was going to go, and I enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm. It was a really good movie.
Yeah, I agree. Then I watched the 1939 version of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's just a story of Hunchback of Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. It's good. I liked it. It's got impressive effects for the time, makeup effects and everything. Great acting, especially from, I believe his name is Charles Lawton, who plays Quasimodo. Let me check. Charles Lawton. He's really good as Quasimodo. I would suggest that to people who like classic films. Then I watched, for the 1001 Movies You Must Watch Before You Die, I watched a documentary called Anvil, The Story of Anvil, which is about a metal band that was like pretty popular in the 80s, but then just kind of fell off the face of the earth. Yeah. But they didn't really. They just had shitty management.
That happens.
But like they're still together today. Mm-hmm. So it was just their story, and goddamn if that's not heartwarming. Like, even if you're not a fan of metal music, you'll probably like this documentary. It's a really heartwarming documentary. They're Canadian, so they're like super optimistic the whole time.
Yeah.
And they do have their moments where they're like, "Oh, I don't know if this is going to happen," but they're like, "Hey, we're just living life the best we can." I'm like,
"We're just out here doing
what's that all about, eh?" I love that. I love Canadians; they're great.
They are.
But yeah, Anvil, The Story of Anvil is great, especially if you like are not happy with where you are in your career. Mm-hmm. This will help you you not feel so alone. Then I watched, for the 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die, The Godfather. Rewatched it. I had seen it already. It's The Godfather.
It's The Godfather.
Then I rewatched Encanto because Caitlin wanted to watch it, so I rewatched that. Then for the 1001 Movies You Must Watch Before You Die, I rewatched The Godfather Part 2. It's The Godfather Part 2. So there's that.
Are you going to watch 3 as well, or are you just cutting it off at that?
That is not in... I have not seen 3, so it would not be a rewatch if I did. That is not on the 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. And I've only heard bad things about it, so I don't really...
too, and I feel like it's not nearly as bad as people say.
Probably not.
Because the thing is, what they're probably going to do is they're just going to compare it to the first two.
Well, yeah.
So it's probably good. It's just not as good as the first two.
The thing with me is they could have stopped at The Godfather, and it would have been fine. It would have been a great film. It doesn't need a second one. Then they made a second one. Obviously, I wasn't alive for this to happen, so I had no opinion of this being made because it was already made by the time I was alive. But this ended in a way that it didn't need another one. It didn't need to continue. So I really don't see what else they could say with it. It's it's strange like that. And
Understandable.
I know Sofia Coppola is in The Godfather Part 3 and is not great in it. She's a great director. Heard she's not a great actress. But that's usually how it goes. Then I watched a documentary called Flea, which is about I sent this to you to try to watch it as well.
And I will.
It is a documentary that is about an Afghan refugee from the 80s, the first time that there was a war there, and just his life. And because it involves some subject matter that's kind of delicate, in order to protect everyone, for the most part, it's animated. Anytime you see a person on the screen, it's animated. And they intercut some stock footage with it about the events he's talking about and everything. But it's an incredible documentary. I really enjoyed it. It's probably going to be nominated for one, if not multiple Oscars. We'll know by the time this comes out, but this is the day before they're announcing the announcements or the nominations when we're recording this. But yeah, I really enjoy that. Then I watched Paris Blues, which we're going to get into right now.
Some motion pictures move you deeply, others not at all. Some pictures you love, some you hate. Here is one which is bound to catch you up in its different kind of love story. You might call it a love spectacular. So intimately exciting, you feel it's happening to you. Paris Blues.
Paris Blues. During the 1960s, two American
Expatriate.
That's what I said, Mike. I didn't stutter. Jazz musicians living in Paris meet and fall in love with two American tourist girls.
Ooh. Yeah, directed by Martin Ritt. Written by Jack Scher, Irene Camp, and Walter Bernstein. I believe it's based on a book. Let me just open this up. It's adapted by Lula Rosenfeld, based on the novel by Harold Flender, starring Paul Newman, Joanne Woodward, who is married to Paul Newman, or was for 50 years, from 1958 to 2008 when he died. So that's a little fun fact. Sidney Poitier, Diane Carroll, Louis Armstrong's in a bit. Barbara Lage, whatever you want to call. Pronounce that the correct way. And then Andre, a bunch of people. Most of the people we don't know. But yeah, this was a streaming roulette choice. Mainly we picked it because it was Paul Newman.
Paul Newman. Which, during this movie, I had realized he looks... how obviously you got friends who look like celebrities in certain ways. I have a friend, Sean, who looks strikingly, just remarkably like Paul Newman, and not as muscular, just looks pretty much just like him, and I never noticed until this movie for some reason.
Yeah.
I guess maybe because I only ever saw 3 Paul Newman movies, but this one I was like,
and some of them
Sean,
were when he was older.
I gotta text you. Yeah, I was like, Sean, I'm gonna text you real quick. Hey, you look like Paul Newman. He's like, never heard that
Sean,
before.
do I?
No, you don't.
Okay.
But it's so goofy. I was like, dude, holy shit.
Yeah.
But anyway, the movie.
The movie.
Yes. Yeah, we did. Yes.
Yeah. I was a little wary about this one because me and romance and film don't really mix too well. I always find it super campy and everything. But overall, I feel like this did a good job of not making it super cheesy. There were definitely moments where it was super corny, and I didn't care for it. But for the most part, it was really good. And I just want to say, the first 30 seconds that Sidney Poitier is on screen is so realistic. This is the first Sidney Poitier movie I've watched, which is a shame. But in those 30 seconds, I was like, I get it. I get why he's such a well-renowned actor. Race aside,
yeah,
he is a fantastic actor in 30 seconds, and he's just sitting there talking
about notes on a paper.
It was just so realistic. I forgot that I was watching an actor for a second. It just blew me away. I don't know why. I don't know how, but I was just very impressed in just his performance throughout the entire thing. But the first 30 seconds, I was like, I get it. I understand. And that was really impressive to me.
It was. Going back to, you know, us watching the movie, of course.
Yeah.
For some reason, we've been in Paris a lot. And,
We have been.
And the point that I wanted to make, Paris and romance movies. It's been a wild ride. What this kind of did was...
Interview with the Vampires in Paris, too,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
I just don't know what's going on. This definitely could have went campy. There's the 60 movies. It's in Paris. It's, you know, two dudes fall in love with two different chicks. It could have went bad, but it never fully dove down into the bad. It did stay its course. I like how in the beginning Paul Newman was actually going for what's her Diane Carroll.
Oh,
Diane Carroll's character.
What's her character's name?
Connie.
Connie, yeah.
He was actually going for Connie in the beginning.
Very progressive for the 60s, by the way. A white man going for a black woman. Like,
yeah. And my favorite
that.
part about the whole like first interaction is like he's like talking to her and she's like, oh, I'm just waiting for my friend. He's like, oh, well, he's like, well, where is she? Oh, she's a white girl. He's like, oh, well, you know, all these white girls look the same, so it's going to be a little tough. It's just fucking hilarious. I did not expect that at all. I'm like, he is right.
Maybe I misheard, but I had subtitles on and I thought I read it. Didn't he say all you white girls look alike?
Nah, I'm pretty sure he said all these white chicks look the same.
We're going to have to look that up and confirm for this. Because I thought he said all you white girls look alike, and she gives him like the funniest, like, you serious look? And that's what I thought.
I mean, either line definitely is like, did he really just say that to me? For sure. It's a hilarious
that's not what
I expected.
It's a hilarious line either way. I think it's a little bit funnier if he calls her a white girl.
Yeah.
Just because, like, it's... I don't know. It's just funny because it's not like him being rude or anything. It's just... I don't know. I just thought it was funny. But I hope it's the one that I heard, but, you know, you never know. But yeah, that was a really funny line. Now, Paul Newman's character plays trombone in this. Ramboan, he plays trombone. He's the lead trombonist, trombonite, whatever you want to call him. And I played trombone for 6 years, I want to say, 7 years, in high school and middle school and all that. And the biggest thing that always irritates me in movies is the actor that they have playing trombone is never coached well and always holds it incorrectly. And Paul Newman was holding it correctly the entire film. I was just
was he? Well, he also had Louis Armstrong in front of him.
Yeah. I was just like, thank God, because that would have driven me crazy if I had watched this entire movie and he was just holding it wrong. They every single time it's in a movie, they have like the part that goes on your shoulder standing straight up and the slide being like parallel to the ground when it should be perpendicular to the ground. And I just that saved me a huge headache. I knew I was in for a good movie,
much better time when people were doing things correctly.
Yeah. I haven't even touched a trombone in 12 years, but it still bothers the shit out of me. I'm just like, it's not how you hold a trombone.
Please handle the brass correctly.
Exactly.
So yeah, listen, I do have to get something off my chest.
Okay.
I miss the days when it only took less than 2 weeks to just fall in love with a person. And you could spill the heart and brains and soul to somebody and just...
If I'm honest, if Diane Carroll came up to me looking like that and was just like, hey, I don't want to be around you, I'll be like, I want to be around you.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I have to be around you. It's just, not only is it in the script, it's in my life right now.
Diane Carroll is absolutely gorgeous in this. And Joanne Woodward is as well. But I don't know. I was just captivated by Diane Carroll. I couldn't tell you why, you know.
I mean, it's the hairdo on Joanne Woodward for sure.
It reminds me of my grandma a little bit.
It's rough. That's why all those white chicks look the same.
Yeah, because they all have that
haircut.
That haircut. It is funny how they all fell in love with dudes. That's when it started like going downhill for me. Is when they were like, oh, we're gonna give up our lives and move back to America for these two women we met 2 weeks ago. I was just like, don't end that way. It doesn't. It doesn't make sense for you to go that way.
Yeah.
In this film, like, you guys are so strong on your music that it would just ruin the whole movie for you to settle. Not
Yeah.
that these women would be settling,
No.
but compared to your careers, settle for a normal life. Mm-hmm. And
they almost set it up for that, like
Yeah.
you know.
I was really mad for 10 minutes towards the end. And then when they revealed that that wasn't going to happen, I was like, oh, thank God.
'Cause Paul Newman's character during the whole time, he's very very handsome, very brooding, very you know, kind of a dick at sometimes, but he's very charming. And you know, he uses that charm, but he uses that dickishness at the same time. And you know, this manager gives him, you know, not the answer he exactly wanted at all. And so he's like, you know what? Fuck it then. I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna go to America. Yeah. It's just so it almost got to that point at the end there where he's like, you know what, dude, I'm just gonna go home with this girl because that's just how it is. Like, they don't want me. You know what? I don't want them. And so he basically he would have went back for the wrong reason, then he would have regretted it.
Yeah, and it would have been bad for both of them too,
Yeah.
not just him. Whereas where Eddie, Sidney Poitier's character, he was a little more content with it, but I still felt it was wrong for him. Maybe not as wrong as, actually definitely not as wrong as it would have been for Ram, but it was a little more believable. They had a little bit better chemistry, whereas for Paul Newman, it felt like more of a fling.
Yeah, she was even giving him. Connie was even giving Eddie reasons to want to go back and stuff like that. And he's like fighting off the temptation, even though he wanted to. He was fighting off the temptation more than Paul Newman's character was at all. Because, you know, Paul Newman didn't have any temptation to go back, where Connie was giving him the temptation to want, like giving him reasons to want to be there.
Like to fight along with
where
his race and everything.
Where Ramboan just even if he did go back, he didn't have any reason or want to go, other than, of course, Joanne Woodward's character, whose name is blank, Lillian.
Lillian, yeah.
Other than her, and then he would have regretted it, and it just would have been bad. So I'm very much glad it went the way it did, at least for.
Oh yeah,
at least
and being a film back then, it could have easily gone that other way too. But all the performance in this really are really good. The one that surprised me, and this isn't because I expected any less of it, but he's a musician, Louis Armstrong.
Very much so.
He was great in this.
His you know what scares me about, like, at least brass instruments, is that anytime anybody's playing it, I'm so fucking scared that somebody's eye is just gonna pop out. How hard they're blowing.
That's because there's that one player. There's a guy who plays a brass instrument. I think he plays trumpet. I don't know his name, but like he can make his eyes pop out, like you know, the Guinness Book of World Records people that can do that. He can do that and does that sometimes.
It's so scary. And then Louis, you know, his eyes aren't popping out, but they're a little bulgy. I'm sitting there like,
yeah. But when he's
gonna see his retinas hit the ground,
when he's like. When he's doing like the solo battle with the band, and he just keeps like turning to people and just like staring at them, like, "Are you gonna go? I don't know. What you should go." His facial expressions throughout that entire sequence in the jazz club are so hilarious. I was just laughing.
Yeah, he was definitely having a ball during all of it. Everybody looked like they were having a ball for sure.
Yeah, it looked like a fun place to be. Like, film set aside, it just looked like a really fun time. And you know, most of the time when I'm in a club, I'm not a people person. I like being at home. I don't like being surrounded by people. I don't even like going to the movies when they're sold out. Like I will, but I don't like it. But I would have had a great time in that jazz club. I think it would have been a fun time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
no doubt about that in the slightest. How did you feel about the whole? Paris is really kind of just over romanticized. You know, it's this. I guess the city of love.
I thought it looked kind of shitty in this movie.
It did.
Like not in like a you know, just
fucking. I was in a Discord with some of my friends watching this movie, but I was mainly paying attention, obviously, to the movie. And like they're just playing their games. I'm sitting there watching, and I'm like, boys, let me ask you a question. Would you wear high heels on cobblestone roads?
Nope.
They're like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, this girl just broke her ankles just now, and she's fine. Like, what? I was like, who in their right mind would wear heels in roads where it's just strictly cobblestone?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, catch me in boots.
Yeah. But like I don't know if like there was a time in Paris where they just didn't keep it clean, or if this is supposed to be like a kind of grungy part of Paris.
Well,
But
just look completely realistic.
It did.
Like
which
if
I
we
liked,
went
but
if we went to Philly right now, it's not gonna look like it is in the movies.
not
in the slightest.
Because they have teams come out and clean before
Yeah.
they go to, unless it's like, you know, like the Joker where it's New York in the 70s when they had a garbage strike. But like any other time, they're gonna have a team go and clean it.
Yeah, this looked like they were at Paris. I mean, obviously we didn't see the Eiffel Tower or anything crazy like that.
And they even mentioned that. They're like,
yeah,
you
they
haven't
even
seen
mention it,
Eiffel
but
Tower.
we don't get to see any like crazy like fun things. We just go to a nightclub. We go to the streets.
I
we
kind
go
of
to shop
appreciated
vendors. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. Like it wasn't over romanticized. Yes, we knew they were in Paris, but they didn't go out and be like, oh, look at these sights. Like this is what I get to see every day. They didn't even go to like a cafe really to like go and sip on these $30 crappuccinos.
Yeah, it wasn't the whereas a lot of movies have the sights and the atmosphere be the romantic part. With this, it was just their connection.
Yep.
And their dialogue back and forth that was the romantic connection, and it was kind of refreshing for that to happen. And yes, they added the whole it's Paris, it's just that kind of city feel to it where people are just making out in corners. But it didn't feel like it tried too hard to add the romance to it. Which again, like you said, I completely appreciated that.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, there's not a whole lot to really talk about other than what we did. I don't know if you have anything else, but
I don't. I am going to when we're done recording though, and I want you to put this in if that is the case. I'm going to find out what she does say or what he does say. If it says all these white girls are all you white girls.
Do you want me to just look it up real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Is your girlfriend as pretty as you are? Yes. She's a white girl. She might be hard to find. All these white girls look alike.
That's disappointing.
Boom.
That's disappointing. Would have been
I
significantly.
think regardless it works, but it definitely would have
does.
been funny if he said all you white girls look alike.
Yeah, not because it's like saying something. It just would have been so fucking random that it would have been funny.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed this movie overall. But I don't have anything else to say other than it should have been all you white girls look the same.
All right.
Yeah. So I assume that does it. Are you done?
That does it.
Okay. That does it for our review for Paris Blues. That brings us to the judgment. As always, it has to be a unanimous decision whether or not it goes onto the shelf with the likes of Apostle and Handmaiden. Pick a number between 1 and 10.
7.
I didn't have one picked out, so pick a number between 1 and 50. Hold on. Okay, I got one.
36.
36. I don't know where I was going with that.
I don't know.
You go first. You go first.
This is a tough one for me, actually, because I genuinely actually enjoyed this movie full way through. There's not really a down moment that I had. And honestly, I don't really have a reason not to put it on the shelf, especially after talking about it, for sure.
Yeah.
No, I genuinely enjoyed it. Paul Newman was great. Sidney Poitier was great. And everybody. Louis Armstrong bulging his eyeballs out was fucking great. It wasn't overly romanticized. It could have been bad, but it wasn't. It was just a good watch.
Yeah. I would agree. I think it's got great music, great performances. The writing's great, even though I think I could have tweaked a line a little bit better. I'm not going to get over that, by the way.
I don't blame you.
But I do think this goes on the shelf. I think it is worthy.
There we go.
All right. So, Paris Blues goes on the shelf with the likes of Apostle and Handmaiden. That brings us to next week, which next week we're going to be releasing the nominations for the Stonies, the second annual Stonies. So, we are not going to have our normal format. The following week after that is going to be the actual Stonies ceremony. Both of those will have videos on our YouTube as well.
Yeah.
If you want to check those out rather than the audio, it will have both audio and video on YouTube. But 3 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, we are going to watch a movie that admittedly very hard to find.
Oh boy.
You already know this, Glenn.
I do.
Stop
I
hamming it up.
act.
It's very hard to find. You will have to pay for it, but it's such an interesting movie that I feel like we kind of need to watch it. That is going to be On the Silver Globe, which is a Polish film directed by Andrzej Zulawski, however you want to pronounce that. It is written by Andrzej Zulawski and based on the book by Jerzy Zulawski. I don't know if they're related, but that's that. It is starring Andrzej Surin, Jerzy Trela, Grazina Diaglag, and Valdemar Kaunaki. And it is a team of astronauts land on an inhabitable planet and form a society. Many years later, a single astronaut is sent to the planet and becomes the Messiah, or a Messiah. So the reason I'm picking this, by the way, you can find it by typing in On the Silver Globe rental or streaming or whatever, and it will take you to a website that's like Eastern European films or something like that, and you'll have to pay $30 to download it. I already did that, so Glenn doesn't have to do that. But
he is a godsend.
Honestly, like our audience, I don't normally talk about our audience, but it's small enough where like, if you want to message us, I could just send you the link. But don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. They are restoring this, but when it was being filmed, the Polish government thought it was a condemnation of their reign. So they shut down the production and then started it up again like 15 years later. And it's got a whole story. It's not even completely finished. It's got some voiceover about what should be happening. There's a company that's currently restoring it. And once it is restored, I'll probably rewatch it, with the final scenes. I believe that's what they're doing. But yeah. So I apologize to anyone that can't afford that, but yeah, can just hit us up. You don't,
just help.
Just hit us up and we'll send you the link.
To nie my zagubieni jesteśmy w kontemplacji świata. To on zagubiony jest w naszej kontemplacji.
On the Silver Globe, that is our assignment for next week. Thank you everyone for listening. As always, you can check out our website at www.keystonefilmreview.com. On Instagram, we are Keystone_film_review. Twitter, Keystone_film. Facebook, Keystone Film Review. YouTube, Keystone Film Review. TikTok, Keystone Film Review. And on Letterboxd, I am Mike, KFR.
And I am Glenn, KFR.
And that will do it until next week when we watch or talk about the Stoney nominations. And then the following week when we reveal the winners. And then the third week from now when we watch On the Silver Globe.
All right.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.